Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the lecture. In this class, we shall discuss about the topic mine illumination. In illumination, we shall talk about the conditions needed for the mine workers to work in the underground mines. So, coming to the introduction of mine illumination. So, the main provision of illumination is to provide a sufficient amount of light for suitable work environment of workers in underground mine for achieving higher production and productivity in both surface and underground mines. And poor work lighting conditions have negative effects on workers' morale and adversely affects their safety, health, and performance. In order to assess the status of illumination levels in mines, systematic illumination surveys are needed to be conducted using appropriate statutory guidelines so that effective control measures can be taken up in mines. So, in order to know the amount of light illumination levels in mines, systematic illumination surveys are needed to be conducted using appropriate statutory guidelines so that effective control measures can be taken up in the mines. In this case, the amount of light required for the mine workings can be studied by photometric terminologies by light physics. There are two major systems of units are currently used for the quantification of light. So to measure the amount of light, there are two major systems of units which are used currently. The first one is Illumination Engineering Society (IES), and second one is International Systems of Units (SI). So all standard systems of light units employ certain fundamental concepts. These basic concepts are luminous flux, illumination, luminous intensity, and luminance. Intensity of light. It is the relative amount of luminous energy given by a source and is measured in candles or candle power or in candelas. Candelas is a CGS unit. Mean horizontal candle power. It is the average candle power of a lamp in all the directions in a horizontal plane passing through the center of the sources and is usually obtained by rotating the lamp about the vertical axis. Mean spherical candle power. Mean spherical candle power is defined as it is the average candle power of a lamp in all the directions or the candle power of a uniform source giving the same total flux of light. It is directly proportional to the total light given by the lamp and is measured by taking intensity readings in all the directions. So now the luminous flux. The luminous flux symbol is phi and the lumen Lm is the flux unit and used in both the IES and SI systems. Luminous flux is the time flow rate of light energy. Flux is the power quantity in the same manner as horsepower. So generally horsepower is used as a unit of power. Like the same, flux is a power quantity to represent the luminous flux. The luminous flux, the lumen, is most frequently used to describe the lighting power of lighting sources. So the lighting power of lighting sources, whatever the light coming from the lamps, various sources like the cap lamps, torches, underground lighting arrangements. So the lighting power of the lighting sources is called as luminous flux. And the lumen symbol Lm is the SI unit of luminous flux, a measure of the perceived power of light. Luminous flux differs from radiant flux, the measure of the total power of the light emitted in the luminous flux is adjusted to reflect the varying sensitivity of the human eye to different wavelengths of light. So it is the SI unit of luminous flux. Lumen is denoted by the symbol Ln, and it is a measure of perceived power of light. And the various sensitivity of the human eye to different wavelengths of the light can be adjusted by changing the luminous flux. Illuminance. So coming to illuminance, so it is the amount of light falling on the surface. So the light coming from the lighting sources falls on a surface. The amount of light falling on the surface is called illuminance. The unit of measurement is lux. So illuminance is generally measured in the unit of lux. Lux is denoted by the symbol Lx, and 2 lumen per minute is the SI system. A light meter is used to measure illuminance. So illuminance, the amount of illuminance is measured by using the light meter, and generally the readings are taken from several angles and positions. From so many, from several angles and positions, the readings are taken and analyzed so that to find the amount of illuminance falling on the surface. So this is the figure showing the illuminance. Illuminance is nothing but the amount of light falling on the surface. Coming to the next one, luminance. Luminance is the amount of light reflected from the surface. So whatever the light coming from the source, it it falls on the surface. Whatever the light falls on the surface, it is supposed to get reflected. So here the luminance is nothing but the amount of light reflected from the surface. Whatever the light is fallen on the surface, it is reflected from the surface. Luminance is denoted to measure the amount of reflected light from the surface. The unit of measurement is candela per square meter. An luminance meter is used to measure it. So luminance is measured by the luminance meter. Several measurements are made and arranged. So many measurements and from many angles and positions. The luminance meter is used to measure the amount of luminance. Luminance tables are considered for reference values. Knowing the reference values of the luminance tables, so we can find the luminance of a light source. So here the figure showing the luminance where light falls on the surface gets reflected into the surroundings. So the luminance is nothing but the amount of light reflecting from the surface is called as luminance. Reflectance. This is the ratio of reflected luminous flux to the incident luminous flux. So generally it is defined as the ratio of reflected luminous flux to the incident luminous flux. So the power of lighting source of the reflected light to the incident luminous flux. In other words, the ratio of light energy emitted from the surface to the amount striking it. Objects with higher levels of reflectance will appear brighter than those of lower reflectance under the same lighting conditions. So when two objects are placed one after one, two objects are placed adjacent to each other. So if a object appears bright, so that means it is having higher levels of reflectance. Here, this is a figure showing the diagram, the phenomena of luminance and luminance. Luminance is nothing but the amount of light energy, light from the lighting sources falls on the surface, and the luminance is nothing but the amount of light reflecting from the surface, and reflectance is the ratio of the amount of light reflected from the surface to the amount of light falling on the surface. So once we go back to the terms that we have discussed, so photometric technologies, which includes two major systems. One is Illumination Engineering Society (IES), and second one is International Systems of Units (SI). So these two systems are used for the quantification of light, and the standards of uh, the standard systems of light employs such certain fundamental concepts, and some of the concepts are luminous flux, illumination, luminous intensity, and luminance. And intensity of light, mean horizontal candle power, mean spherical candle power, luminous flux, lumen, luminance, luminance, and reflectance. So these are the concepts related to the illumination. Contrast. So coming to the next one is contrast. The relative difference in luminance between two adjacent surfaces. So when when an object of different surfaces are placed, so the amount of luminance between two adjacent surfaces is known as contrast. So when two surfaces are having different illuminance, means the amount of light falling on the surface is different, having a difference, then it is called as contrast. In other words, how bright one surface looks compared to other on the background against which it is being viewed. So when one looks much bright than the other, so then it is more contrast than the other. So here the following figure shows the contrast where the black looks more bright than the white when the light falls on the surface. There is a difference in luminance. Luminance is nothing but the amount of light falling on the surface. Uniformity ratio. This may be expressed as the ratio of average to the minimum, or it may be expressed as a ratio of maximum to the minimum level of illumination for a given area. So this is a table showing the reflectance of typical surfaces in coal mines. We have many surfaces in underground mines where we are seeing the reflectance of various surfaces. Various surfaces like coal, calcite, stone dust, dolomite stone dust, rust, fresh whitewash, faded whitewash. And the coming to the reflectance, it is the ratio of amount of light reflecting from the surface to the amount of light falling on the surface. So here we are having the respective percentages of reflectance of various surfaces in coal mines. For coal, it is the reflectance is generally 3 to 15%. For calcite stone dust, it is 59%. For dolomite stone dust, it is 9%. For rust, it is 9%. Fresh whitewash, it is having a percentage of 65 to 95%. Faded whitewash, 20 to 60. Of all the cases, fresh whitewash is having more percentage of reflectance, and coal is having a less percentage of reflectance of all the surfaces. So now coming to the general lighting in mines. Illumination is nothing but providing light from various lighting sources. In mines, various places are to be well illuminated and arranged for effective working of the workers. So generally, lighting arrangements have to be provided in a mine at the following places, and electricity is available, light should be electrical. So if the illumination is not sufficient, if it is insufficient, and where availability of lights electricity is available, So the lights should be electric. So the following are the places where the electrical lights or the illumination have to be sufficiently done. The first one is on the surface, in the pit top, incline top, and in every engine room if natural light is insufficient. So where the places like on the surface where the, the natural light is insufficient, like the engine room, the pit top, and the incline top. So these are the places where the light is if the natural light is insufficient, then the general electricity lighting has to be arranged. And in below ground at every shaft inside and shaft bottom or siding which is in regular use. So the pit bottom and siding of the shaft inside at every place which is in regular use where movement of men and machinery where the regular work is carried on. So these places have to be uh, illuminated properly. In every traveling roadway normally used by 50 or more person during any shift. In any shift, more than if the mine is having 50 or more than 50 people are working any shift, the traveling roadway have to be arranged with electrical lights at the top and bottom of every self-acting incline in regular use. The top and bottom of every self-acting incline, the lighting arrangement have to be done. At every place on the haulage roadway at which stops are regularly coupled or uncoupled from haulage roadway. So where the uncoupling and coupling operations are carried on the haulage roadway, um, the lighting arrangements have to be properly done. At every place at which tubs are regularly filled mechanically. The place where the tubs are filled mechanically by using of LHDs, SDLs, and continuous miners, where movement of tubs, the haulage roadways. So generally, the lighting arrangements have to be properly done at every room and place containing any engine, motor, or other apparatus. At every place where an extraction is under, where any pillar is under extraction. So near the face where the extraction process is carried on, the lighting arrangement have to be properly done at every first aid station below ground. So in the first aid station, the lighting arrangement have to be properly done where uh, there are some equipments in the first aid below ground. Every lighting fitting in underground government have to be of flame-proof design. So whatever the electric light fitting which is done in underground mine, so the light fitting have to be properly flame-proof design. So which means which uh, cannot ignite the inflammable environment. So now coming to the source of illumination, source of lighting. So we have the types of portable lamps. So using these portable lamps, we use in the mines for the purpose of illumination. So there are three types of portable lamps. The first one is acetylene portable hand lamp, and the second one is flame-proof safety torch, and the third one is electrical cap lamps. So we should discuss in an order. So first one is acetylene portable hand lamp. So acetylene portable lamp is commonly used portable lamp in metal mines is the acetylene hand lamp. So it is generally used in metal mines, and it is a handy instrument, handy lamp, which means we can, which means we can carry in the hand simply. It is also known as carbide lamp. So acetylene portable hand lamp is also called as carbide lamp. These are simple lamps that produce and burn acetylene, which is created by the reaction of calcium carbide with water. Acetylene hand lamp is generally having two substances. One is calcium carbide and another one is water. When these two products are reacted, which are calcium carbide and water. It gives acetylene gas. The conventional format of producing acetylene in a lamp is by putting the calcium carbide in the lower chamber. So this is the figure showing the acetylene hand lamp. In this, we can see two chambers, the lower chamber and upper chamber. The lower chamber is having the carbide, calcium carbide, and the upper one is having the water. The conventional format of producing acetylene gas is in a lamp is by putting the calcium carbide in the lower chamber. So here clearly shown that the lower chamber is having the calcium carbide. The upper reservoir is then filled with water. The top portion of the acetylene hand lamp is filled with water, and a threaded valve or other mechanism is used to control the rate at which the water is allowed to drip onto the chamber containing calcium carbide. So a threaded valve is arranged, or the mechanism is used to control the rate at which the water is allowed. So the water is allowed by using a threaded valve or other mechanism for dripping the water into the lower chamber, which is having calcium carbide. By controlling the rate of water flow, the production of acetylene gas is controlled. So by controlling the amount of water, so we can control the amount of reaction between the calcium carbide and the water. And by controlling the amount of water, we can also control the production of acetylene gas. By then, the amount of flow rate of the gas and the size of the flame at the burner. So we can also control the size of the flame at the burner. So this type of lamp generally has a reflector behind the flame to help project the light forward. So when the flame produces, so the flame, the lamp is having a reflector behind the flame. So when flame produces, the reflector is equipped behind the flame. So it helps to project the light forward, to move forward, to spread the light. So generally, a reflector is equipped behind the flame. An acetylene gas powered lamp produces a surprisingly bright, broad light. So acetylene gas powered lamp produces a surprising. It is generally used to get a bright light and broad light. This type of unfocused light works well underground as it improves peripheral vision in the complete dark. So this is generally used in dark conditions to get sufficient amount of light. The reaction of carbide with water produces a fair amount of heat independent of the flame. And not only the flame but also heat is also produced during the reaction of calcium carbide with the water. In a coal mine, a carbide lamp can be used by a miner to provide a heat to help prevent hypothermia. The first calcium carbide mining lamp developed in the United States was patented in New York on August 28, 1900 by Frederick Baldwin. So this is the handy instrument figure showing the acetylene hand lamp. So generally used in metal mines, which is having two chambers. The upper chamber is having water, and the lower chamber is having calcium carbide. So a threaded valve or mechanism is arranged in between these two chambers, which controls the dripping of the water falling from the upper chamber to the lower chamber. The amount of water falling from the upper chamber to the lower chamber will decide the amount of the gas produced, the acetylene gas produced, the amount of reaction uh, will control the amount of flame. So coming to the next one is flame-proof safety torch. So flame-proof safety torch, which is simply a torchlight which is intrinsically safe in inflammable atmosphere. So safety torch is intrinsically safe in inflammable atmosphere. Generally, an intrinsically safe apparatus is defined as an apparatus which is incapable of igniting the inflammable atmosphere. The torch is locked in a lamp cabin and can be opened only by special tools. Unlocking and opening in the mine is impossible. So the flame-proof safety torch, it is generally locked in the lamp cabin and cannot be opened wherever we want. Like unlocking and opening in a mine is impossible. So this can be opened only by using special kind of tools. The glass at the mouthpiece is tough and acrylic disc, so which is generally unbreakable type. The glass is protected by a grill of 2 wide brace plates in the mouthpiece. The bulb is protected by a spring placed over. So if the glass breaks, the spring is thrown out and the bulb loses its contact with the battery terminal, thereby ceasing to burn. Exposure of the hot filament of the bulb in case of breakage of the latter is out of question. There is spring cushion, a sort of shock absorber between the bulb and the dry cell, which prevent crushing of the bulb against the weight of the dry cells in case of accidental dropping of the torch. So this is generally intrinsically safe. Accidentally, if it is dropped, the torch will not catch fire. So here we are having the figure showing the flame-proof safety torch. There are two figures of various constructions. So we can see the parts like in the first figure, reversible handle, screw head, lead rivet lock, armored plate glass, focusing screw head, nickel plated steel case. So the casing is generally made of nickel plated steel. And in the second figure, is simply looks like a torchlight, and it is having the parts of protecting grade, armor plate glass, switch, lead rivet lock, chromium plated cover case. And coming to the third one, electrical cab lamps. The electrical cab lamps used in our mines are the popularly known as cab lamps, and also cab lamps manufactured by the Mine Safety Appliances Companies Limited. In cab lamp, the entire cab lamp unit consists of 4 volts lead acid battery. So cab lamp is having mainly 4 parts. One is battery and the connecting cable, and one is next one is cab, and last one is lamp. The cab lamps, the entire cab lamp unit consists of 4-volt lead acid battery, which is a rechargeable type. A lamp which can be hooked to the helmet and a connecting cable. So a lamp which is connected by a connecting cable to the battery, and the battery is having 2 cells, and the lamp can be hooked to the helmet. In the Oldham cab lamp unit, each cell of the lead acid battery consists of a number of composite lead antimony tubes or plates. So the lead acid battery is having antimony tubes or plates. Plates carrying the active materials and immersed in 30% of sulfuric acid and distilled water. So the battery is having 2 cells, and the plates, the active and uh, these two plates are immersed in 30% of sulfuric acid and distilled water. And the positive plate in each cell is of pasted flat type, and the insulating separators are of Sponac, a highly absorbent type of wood, which absorbs about 85% of the total acid in the cell. Here we are having two kind of chemicals. In fully charged condition, the active material in the positive plates is brown lead peroxide PbO2. So during fully charged condition, the active metal, the active side of the positive plate is generally brown lead peroxide, which is PbO2, and in the negative plate it is gray spongy lead. It is simply lead. During discharge, both positive and negative plates change partly into lead sulfate. So that is the reaction. Here is the following reaction which is happened during charging. So it is also a reversible reaction, which means again we are getting the reverse reaction, reverse products upon charging. Here, the following figure shows the cab lamps. Here, generally we have four parts for electrical cab lamps. One is battery, the connecting cable, lamp, and the cab. So the lamp is connected by connecting to the battery by connecting cable, and it is put to the cab. So that's all for now. Thank you everyone.